What is the ego? Welcome to Rindus. My name is Aiden. Today I am discussing the ego. What is it? Why do we have it? How can we get rid of it? Or at the very least, how can we minimize it so we can live a more natural, happy life? Today I'm going to start the video by actually showing you, or I'm going to say to you, I'll put it that way, what I what my phone comes up with when I Google it. So I Googled 4 questions and I will tell you what the question is and I will read the answer and then we'll go from there. It's only a couple of minutes, don't worry. 1, what is your ego? Your ego is your conscious mind, the part of your identity that you consider yourself. If you say someone has a big ego, then you are saying he is too full of himself. Ha. Question 2. What is the role of the ego? The ego is the only part of the conscious personality. It is what the person is aware of when they think about themselves and is what they usually try to project toward others. The ego develops to mediate between the unrealistic idea and the external real world. It is the decision-making component of personality. The third question, why do humans have an ego? The ego is born out of fear and isolation. It creates our identity and separates us from those around us when we were a child. The birth of ego is the process of identifying the self in terms of opposing ourselves to others. And the last question, number 4, do I have an ego? This is what the internet says. I'm not asking if I have an ego, but you constantly compare yourself to other people who you feel are better than you. Better looking, more intelligent, happier, more wealthy. You constantly compare yourself to people who you feel are not as good as you, less intelligent, lower status. You feel jealous when other people do well. So that is the material that I'm starting with regarding ego. And the reason I want to make a video on it because I think it is the single most high on the list item that all the gurus, the masters, even the spiritual teachers, and I count Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad and all these spiritual, high standing, high ranking people, that is the number one thing that they were trying to teach us to get rid of it. I believe a lot of religious people believe that Jesus will come back and alleviate the suffering of this world. I said in another video that our body is a mini world. Our body is made entirely of earthly materials, earthly minerals. So, if you think a little bit deeper into that, alleviate the suffering of the world does not necessarily mean that literally he is going to come down and stop everybody's suffering. I don't really see it that way. What I do see is that Jesus clearly said that we can all find that consciousness that he had inside ourselves. So when Jesus comes back to alleviate the suffering of the world, I think he was actually saying that we will find the Christ within ourselves, within our own world, and alleviate our own suffering. If you pay close attention, I find it so obvious that all of them are speaking about the source of that suffering. And nobody seems to just flat out see it is about the ego every time. That is why I started this video with these 4 explanations on the internet on what is ego, why do I have an ego, what does the ego do, questions like that. I think our ego is just not something that we're born with. I almost feel like when you are born in this earthly body, it is educated into you. No, that's not actually a true word, because it said it in one of the internet answers. Ego is something that builds itself up around your insecurities. So, a better thing to say would be, as you learn the world, as you observe the world, as you experience the world, your thought processes and your emotional processes, the combination of these seems to be what creates the ego. And this is a process that takes your entire childhood, even a long part of your adulthood. Every time that your emotions get triggered, and they didn't really say by happy emotions, they actually made it all sound like negative emotions. I think it is both. Negative and positive emotions all feed our ego. They all trigger our emotional mechanism. I used to joke when my daughter was born and I was there live during the birthing process. I said out loud to the doctors, "Okay, here's my daughter. Can you get the instruction manual out of there too?" See, that was just meant to be a lighthearted joke because I'd never had a kid. I didn't know what I was gonna do with that. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna take care of it and love it and educate it and play with it. My daughter, obviously. But you see what I mean? Some things about our human body just never came with an instruction manual. And the way we start thinking from a very early age is one of these things that I wish there was a school for. And sadly, we have schools for totally different reasons. We have now schools that indoctrinate our children into listening to an adult. Have you ever watched young children play? Have you ever noticed they seem to talk to things that are quote unquote not there, like spirits, ghosts, or invisible buddies that they have? Especially single children, children that have no other siblings. They tend to create an imaginary world to interact with. And a lot of adults will talk them out of that. I mean, this is a double-edged sword. I mean, your child is trying to entertain itself and it's using something it has available, its imagination, its fantasy. But we as adults have lost that long ago, and we are making sure our child will function in the physical world. So we're saying, stop talking to the wall, stop talking to invisible things, your angels, whatever, spirits, ghosts, and come talk to mommy or daddy. You see, we are doing things like putting children in a box from a very early age, but they are actually still free spirits. And it's not until we start pushing what we think is reality onto them that they slowly start to develop an ego. As it said in one of these answers, it's mostly negative experiences. It said the ego is born out of fear and isolation, and yet it creates our identity. I personally, I've said it in other videos, I'll say it one more time, and I'm sure I'll repeat it more in other videos. Around age 25 is where I had started looking for so many answers because I didn't feel religion had them all, and I slowly veered away from it. And I'm not bashing religion. I actually was born and raised in a Catholic Christian country, and I used to go to church every Sunday. I'll tell you what, speaking about children and ghosts and invisible things, when I was a child, I vividly remember that after school, on my walk home, I would walk through the church. The church had a little side entrance, like it was really a small door because most cathedrals in Belgium have a huge front door. I would go in the small door on the side because it was on the street from school to home, and I would go to the statue of Mother Mary. And I don't know why, but now in my memory, I cannot find conversations that I remember with Mother Mary. But I am 100% sure, like a zero doubt, I had conversations with that statue. I wasn't even making them up. I wasn't imagining them. No, these I had a one-on-one conversation with that essence of Mother Mary. You see, that is the innocence of a child, and we're so quick to dismiss it. We're so quick to smack it out of them, figuratively, hopefully. But I really wish I would have been more attentive. I don't know. Like, I think in my world back then, it was real. It was, I mean, yes, it was a statue, but the conversation I was having was very, very real and vivid. And even as a child, yes, I knew this was a statue. I was just visiting a statue, but I mean, I keep saying it over and over. Like, I had a conversation with this statue every time I remember that, but I don't remember one word of these conversations. I don't even remember what she sounded like or what she looked like besides the statue. This was really a telepathic thing. I know that for sure. And I would do this every day religiously. Not out of religion. I just simply mean this was my routine. There was no other way to go home for me. I had to go through the church and say hi to Mother Mary. And then I would walk out through the big door in the front and continue walking home. See, that is one example. What does that have to do with ego? Not much. But back then, my mind wasn't polluted yet with what I should and should not listen to. Excuse me. And I think we as adults, if you happen to be a young couple and you are considering having children, try hard not to dismiss it so quickly when they are having fun on their own and they seem to have conversations with things that you cannot see. As a matter of fact, maybe for experiment's sake, pretend you see it too and have the conversation, join in this conversation. Obviously, you'll be speaking through your child to have this conversation, but just appreciate what is going on there. So, the ego, can we get rid of that? I personally know for myself, yes, without a doubt. And remember what I said earlier, I believe Buddha and Jesus, all the spiritual people that have ever come before us, that's all they were ever trying to do. They knew that 99% of our suffering happens in our head because of our ego. We are suffering just about everything. Literally, the weather is bad. We concoct some sort of suffering towards that. Like the dishes is piling up, the laundry is piling up, oh, the house needs cleaned. We suffer all of that. But life experiences are by far the worst. One of the worst things is not properly dealing with the loss of something or someone. I said in my introduction video, I believe, I lost my brother in 1994 to suicide, and I barely knew the guy. He was quite a bit older than me, I believe about 10 years older, so he was a young adult, and I was still a very young kid. I don't even think I was a teenager. I was right around the age of 10. But I didn't have the necessary, how do I say this, the necessary emotional tools to digest or to understand what had happened. Like someone alive just disappeared. I don't recall having anyone of my family members die until then. I think actually my mom's mother, so my grandmother, died before that, but I knew her so little and she was never really, like, I'm sorry to say it, she was pretty much a vegetable or in a vegetative state, I should say, when I met her. I only remember meeting her like 5 times, and it was always in a hospital bed, like basically an old folks' home where they, sorry to say it, wait to die. I visited my grandmother with my mom, and my mom would give her a sippy cup to drink a little bit, and she would grunt like trying to speak, but she couldn't get anything out. She could hardly even move anymore. So you see, I didn't feel I lost something there because I had no life experiences with that person. Yes, I saw a living person in a bed, but I had no experiences with that person beyond that. So there was no loss. My brother, as I said it in that first video, he had made promises to me. He had given me my first electronic video game. I mean, this was in the early 90s. Video games were a brand new thing back then. They didn't exist. Until then, it was comic books for me, or jigsaw puzzles, Legos, Matchbox cars, whatever. Anything that was a toy was okay, but nothing was electronic. I'll give you that. Oh, the good old days. The days where we actually played with our hands instead of with just our thumbs. Anyway, so yes, um, I did not have the necessary skill to cope with that debt. And at the age of 10, if someone that is important to you suddenly dies, you are suddenly confronted with a reality that as a child you don't even consider is a thing. Like, as a child, you live in some sort of fantasy world. Everything is playtime for you. Everything is gaining experiences, like trying new foods, trying something new outside, like climbing up ladders, climbing up the stairs, climbing up the roof, climbing in a tree. Like, you're exploring life, always moving forward, learning more, seeing more, experiencing more. And suddenly you realize this could all suddenly come to an end by the process we call death. And I remember back then I was in catechism. Catechism. I don't know what the English word is for that. It is basically Bible study for young children. And I remember asking the nuns or the priests, I don't even remember who was giving these classes. But I remember asking them, what is death? What happens to people that die? And I remember vividly whatever answer they gave me, it didn't suffice for me at all whatsoever. Like, I wasn't happy with that answer. Like, oh, you go to heaven. Like, oh, you go be with Jesus. You go be with God. What am I supposed to do with that? I'm a kid. I'm on earth. I don't have any comprehension of heaven. Yes, it's a fantastic magical place. That's like, I mean, I'm laughing. I get it. That is what we describe heaven as. It's a fantastic magical place, and hopefully Jesus, God, and all our past relatives, our past pets are all there. But that didn't answer the question, what is death to me? I had to look for that myself. Remember what I said earlier? I religion was a help to some point, and now I've just felt it cut me short. Like, I needed to know more. I needed to understand more. This was not alleviating my suffering in one bit, and that didn't make sense to me because all the teachings of Jesus is exactly about alleviating the suffering of the world. So I had to look elsewhere. And I did a combination of two things. I just kept Googling it. I mean, later on in my life, obviously, like I said, when I was 25, I just stormed the internet for every weird question that I ever had conceived in my life. I stormed the internet, YouTube, everywhere I could find information. And more often than not, I realized the Eastern texts are very different. They started explaining to me in their own ways that life does not begin at birth and it does not end at death. Life was already there before you were born and it will continue after you die. The only thing that is different in these teachings is that you have a temporary vehicle to experience the planet that you know as Earth. That was a mind blower for me at the time. Like, wow, that actually makes sense. So what we see as death now is simply the end of one body, but not the end of you. I think I'm veering off a little bit of what is ego, but I still think this is important because it shows there was a point in my life where questions started piling up, and all of these things actually helped me get out of ego. And I'm not gonna lie, it also kind of when combined with once I got into the Eastern religions, I got very fascinated by that one word, enlightenment. And I'm sure if you looked up enlightenment, you're gonna get lots of explanations to what it is and how to get there. But should I call myself enlightened now? Now that I feel like I have no ego anymore, I don't know. It seems a little bit high of myself, right? That would be a big ego of me, right? To say I'm enlightened now. But it feels like even a small amount of enlightenment, and if you actually think about it, that word explains itself. Shining a light or flicking on a torch, shining a light on all your confusion. That is a form of enlightenment. And if I can say I achieved that, okay, I will go with that. To me, it seems that when you achieve, like I said, some even basic amount of enlightenment, that is actually a light that diminishes the dark side of the ego. I like that explanation. See, the ego will always be and always exist. Who knows why it's there? I don't really care. What I care about is that the ego is the thing in us that seems to be the source of 99% of our suffering. You would say, well, my knee hurts. What does my ego have to do with that? My fingers, like arthritis. Ooh, I have a headache. What does my ego have to do with that? I'll tell you what, you assigned the word pain to all these sensations. And that is what these teachers are trying to teach you. It is just a sensation. Don't assign it any value. Don't say this hurts number 9 out of 10. My headache hurts number 3 out of 10. Just let it be. It is just an experience. So let me move my microphone a little bit. I'm experimenting with the microphone. I'm trying to have it closer to my face, but the problem is I'm actually holding it with my hand now and it's leaning on a pillow on my lap. I will eventually buy a microphone boom, but I want to see if my voice sounds clearer if it's closer to my face. I mean, the microphone being closer to my face. Anyway, so what is it from an early age that starts to construct our ego? Let's look at that maybe. Every time, I'm going to give you a couple examples. When I was young, I was afraid of the dark and I was afraid of lightning. These two usually come combined. There is lightning during the day, but during the night, lightning is so much more terrified because everything is dark, and all of a sudden, flash, everything is lit up beyond daylight almost, and then poof, dark again. You see, I remember when I was a young kid, I would go play with the kids from the neighbors. They had three kids, two boys and a girl. They were all about my age, but because they had three amongst themselves, they would always be much more rough with each other. Like they weren't friendly kids towards each other. I mean, that's just how kids are. And when you're in each other's space all day long, you're gonna be fighting over little toys and whatnot. But one day I was playing with them, and they had a huge yard, and below their house, it's this house was part of a huge warehouse because their dad was like he restored antique furniture and stuff like that. So under the house was this overhang where you could go under, and that's where the shed was. So this overhang was already dark, and this shed was just full of old garden tools. Nobody ever really went in there. For whatever reason, the oldest boy from those three kids decided it would be a fun idea to cram me in that dark, and I mean pitch dark uh, shed, slam the door and lock it. And I freaked out. I mean, I was terrified. I mean, I banged on the wall, I screamed bloody murder, and he would not open that door. Um, I think I got quiet for 5 seconds and I said, you know what's good is, and I started kicking the door because I knew it was all flimsy wood. I'm like, you know what? I don't care if I get in trouble if I kick this door down. I'll blame him. I kicked the door down so hard that it shattered to pieces all over the place. And I was so pissed at that kid back then. But you see, experiences like that is what starts to build the ego. Now, I have a fear of being pushed in. I mean, not anymore right now. I'm just explaining at some point in my life back then. I'm explaining how ego is constructed as far as I can see it. I had a fear of people pushing me towards corners of a house or a shed or even a small room, like an elevator, for example. I did not like it when people were pushing you in towards these places. I did not like the dark. Why? Because I linked all of that to that moment of fear that I felt when I was shoved in that shed. And this is what we do with all of our experiences. When you're a kid, you're gonna do dumb things, guaranteed. Don't worry so much about that. But here's what always happens: the parent will be irritated. Say you drop a dish and it breaks. Your parent might yell at you and give you some, explanation on why you're being a dumb kid. Don't take that personal. Everybody makes mistakes, but this is what we do. So now you have some sort of terrified feeling towards being a little bit self-sufficient, like you were whatever you were doing with the plate, you were trying to use it for yourself, you were trying to help yourself. And here you are being yelled at for even trying that, and the plate fell, it broke, and oh god, like all hell breaks loose. All these things built ego. We have a self-image of us. We're too fat, we're too skinny, our hair is too short, it's too curly, like we don't like the color of our eyes, we don't like our skin looking dry and having a couple pimples. All of this is the ego again. We are comparing ourselves to other people, like wow, that person's skin is so much prettier, so much smoother, wow, his hair is shiny, her hair is shiny, why are their curls perfect and mine are like the craziest nest a bird could live in it. This comparison is another thing that we do that is purely based in the ego. I don't know how to teach anybody how to be self-confident. I think enlightenment and self-confidence go hand in hand somewhat. When you lose the need to compare yourself with others above and below you, things become different. Like you get a very secure feeling if you just are happy with yourself. And that is something all of us need to learn. That is the alleviation of the suffering that teachers were trying to teach us, not in school. I mean, the religious teachers, the spiritual teachers, the guru, the mystics, all of these people, they were speaking of the suffering that we cause to ourselves by comparing ourselves with the outside world all the time. And we start doing that at an early age. It's it's sad really, and I've said it already in the video. I really wish there was a school where you could cultivate the mind essentially. And I know in the East they actually have things like that. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but like I said, I follow Sadhguru and I listen to some of his wisdom, let's call it that, or his speeches. And he said something along the lines of when children choose to go to school in India, they have to swear something, like they don't have to swear allegiance to the teacher or the teaching. They have to swear that they are children of the universe, or something along those lines. Don't quote me on these things, but what they're basically doing is making sure that these children know that they are learning material for the benefit of everybody. He used the word universe to show that you are a universal thing. You are not a selfish creature learning for the benefit of just you. And that is something, when I heard that, I instantly realized we all go to school because we want to get money. We want to buy a house. We want a car, a family. And these are all beautiful things. But in the process of that, we completely overlook how selfish of a process that really is. When is the last time you asked your neighbor for a hand of help. Like, hey, I'm trying to lift this couch out of my living room so I can vacuum. Like, I mean, assuming you don't have someone else in your house that can help you with that. When is the last time you just asked somebody else for help? We almost don't do that anymore. Why? Because we have just been trained into being selfish. That's a silly example, but that is one more thing that you will learn to do when you realize you are no better or worse than anybody else. We are all humans on this planet living from birth to death. And what we do in those two spaces, I mean, between those two spaces, makes a heck of a difference. What we do is something that seriously needs looked at in depth. By who? A psychiatrist? Not necessarily. By you yourself. The only person that will ever know you best is you. It will always be you. Even your mother, your father, your siblings will never know you as well as you yourself. And I'll tell you why that is. Even if your parents or brother and sister were around you 24/7, you could say, yes, they know you very, very well. The thing that they will never know about you is how do you think in your head when it's quiet, when you're by yourself. The things that others cannot see is your thought processes. And that too is something you will learn to do from an early age. You will learn to rationalize everything that happens around you, to you, for you. You must rationalize everything. That is essentially how we learn to deal with the world. We must make sense of everything. That is another thing you will lose when you try to get rid of your ego. Rationalizing everything. Why is she being so annoying to me? Why is she being so friendly to me? Why is that person helpful? I did nothing nice to them, and yet here they're helping me. You see, we are trying to rationalize everything. Why did I want such a big house when I'm single? That's something I had to look at for myself too. I live in a pretty big house for a single person. But we're trying to rationalize everything. Why can't we not just let things be and not even worry about them? That is what life really could be if you wanted to be at your best. Accept everything that is. Don't try to label it. Don't try to justify it. Don't try to worry about how much it costs. Just it exists just like you just exist. That is all it's going to boil down to. If you start plucking the whole system apart up here, the ego, everything that makes you feel an emotion is 9 out of 10 times triggered by a past experience that you had, good or bad. And now your ego is reminding you, like, remember when people behave this way, it might turn out that way like it did in the past. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get insulted. You're going to get outcasted. You're going to get dumped by your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever. You see, like our ego is a false sense of security because it behaves as if it is trying to protect you by always reminding you of things that have gone wrong in the past. And I have said this in other videos. This is something else you need to look at. Why do we always say things are going wrong? Have you ever noticed how people that don't worry about anything, even when they have a flat tire on the road or whatever, they never seem to behave in a way that is like, God, why did this happen? They just go with it. Your tire went flat. That's not the end of the world. That is not a reason to get angry. These things just happen, and today it happened to you. By default, that does not have to be a bad experience. For people that are more in tune with, angels, spirit guides, those kind of things, they know that everything happens for a reason. I know that too. But when you are living in ego, just about everything that doesn't go your way is a reason for you to be irritated, angry, self-loathing, depressed even. It's amazing what kind of emotions we subscribe to just a silly flat tire. So you see, it's the ego needs to be looked at seriously. Like, I'm glad I didn't go to school as a psychiatrist, because I am very interested in the psyche of the human mind. Like, why do we think the way that we think? And once I realized that nobody taught me to think, this is a process that I picked up on my own, and I believe all of us just picked that up on our own. Nobody really gave us guidelines on how to think. Isn't that weird? It's the one thing that we actually do the most in our entire life, just thinking. We think in the past, we think in the future, but how often are you just present in the moment? Like, I am sitting here making a video for you. I am not worried about what time I have to get up for work tomorrow. I am not worried about my car sitting in the driveway with the windshield dirty. I've been wanting to wash it for a couple of days. I'm not worried about any of that. I am just present here with you, making a video that I hope will be helpful to you. You see, there's an infinite amount of things going on in the world. You can worry about all of it, or you can just worry about what is in front of you. And when I say worry about what is in front of you, I really just mean be present. Be the observer of what is around you, and let go of all your judgments, all your fears, all your preconceived notions of what is and isn't fun or good or bad or pleasant, unpleasant. Let it all go. Just exist in the space where you are. That is what they are trying to teach us. And that is why I said in the beginning of this video, Jesus will come back and alleviate the suffering of the world. That is how I feel it is meant to be interpreted. That world is us, and that Jesus is in us. All we have to do is discover it and get rid of all these things that were never taught to us, that just started existing. That is actually called the human condition. That thinking process, that ego that sits somewhere in there, it's called the human condition. We all say Earth, being on Earth sucks. This place sucks. Everything is terrible here. There's always trouble going on everywhere. There's the justice system is a joke. Like, politics, everything is just bad. There's war going on. People are starving. The ocean is polluted. The air is polluted. The night sky is polluted with light. And the highways are causing sound and vibrations everywhere, like sound pollution. All of these things. There is an infinite amount of things to worry about here. But just existing in this space without worrying about a thing, that is almost unheard of. When you sit somewhere quietly and you are just wondering in your mind, what if, what could, what might, maybe, that is still not being present. You are creating thoughts that will never cease until you become aware of the fact that you are the producer of the thoughts. They always say that before you can meditate, you should actually just observe your thoughts. And that is something I've been trying to explain myself also to people. Our thoughts just seem to happen to us. I remember I made a video that said, instead of saying it happens to us, just start saying it happens for us. Why for us? Because now it implies we can do something about it. When things happen to us, it sounds like we're just a victim of the situation. And I'm arguing, if things happen for us, it sounds much more like we have a choice in the matter. We can choose to take things personal. We can choose to walk away happy, or, like we took something personal. And that is a learnable behavior. It's just very difficult to teach people that. And that is, I'm always, what's the word? Baffled that almost all the questions that are being asked of these mystics are just that. How can I XYZ? How can I quiet my mind? How can I do this? How can I do that? Sadhguru even has a story about a guy that wants to absolutely learn meditation and he just cannot do it. And he says, I want you to think about anything you want. We're going to meditate on just one thing that you want to meditate on one condition. Do not think about monkeys. Now go. What happens? The guy disappears for a few days. He's going to meditate in the woods by the river. And a week later, he comes back to his guru and he says, I can't do this. I can't meditate. All I'm thinking about is monkeys. You see the point? Like, people are trying to stop their thinking by thinking. I want to stop thinking. I want to stop thinking. I want to stop thinking. I don't want to think about my car. I don't want to think about my job. I don't want to think about my trouble. I don't want to think about my finances. You're still thinking. What I actually give as an advice to people is, instead of trying to empty your mind, try to redirect it. Your thoughts will continuously chatter all day long. This is all part of the ego. This is all part of insecurity. Your thoughts will never stop until you stop validating them. What you can do, because what you should actually do is try to step back from your thoughts and try to have them float in front of you. That is, again, how do you explain that? Like, make your thoughts float in front of you and stop rationalizing them. Just observe them as if they are something playing on your TV screen. And you will start to realize how silly all of it is. You're going to realize that this is an infinite amount of stuff that will come to you forever. It will never stop. But that's the thing. We are not willing to take the time to externalize our thoughts for just a minute to have some peace in our head. We just think these thoughts are a normal function of us, and yet they keep us miserable. You see? So that should be something all of us learn, to externalize our thoughts. So if you absolutely struggle with that, if you cannot quiet your mind, I suggest that instead of listening, or even if it's unconsciously, you're not necessarily listening, excuse me, to your mind, try to focus on just something else that you are familiar with, that you really enjoy. Almost like daydreaming a little bit, like, when you're just at work, you're ready for a nap, but you cannot nap. Your thoughts just float somewhere, but you can direct where they float. This picture behind me on the wall, it is a forest. If you are a person that really enjoys the forest, try to imagine that you are walking to the most beautiful forest that you can imagine. All sorts of flowers. Try to imagine the smell of the flowers. Try to imagine the smell of the air. Like a real forest has a very distinctive smell, like a very earthy, woody. If you're in a pine needle forest, even that has a peculiar smell. Try to envision as much detail about a place that makes you happy. A friend of mine, she is absolutely the happiest person when she is here at this house, because this is where she can feel calm. She feels like she can be herself here. And I told her, I said, if this is the place where you feel the most calm, happy, trouble free, just envision that. Just when you're ever feeling anxious, depressed, envision being somewhere where you are happy. And yes, I try to be a very positive beacon for the real people in my life. I'm trying to be one for you, the listener, too. But you see, I'm trying to create an atmosphere. I have a profile on a website somewhere, and I speak quite a bit about myself, but there's this one line that I actually put in quotation marks, and I made this line up myself, but I'm starting to realize more and more how correct that line is. Here's what the line says: there is shit in everybody's life I am just here to counterbalance it. See, what I meant by that statement is I'm a calm person. I am always myself. I know the world is full of trouble. Whether you want to talk about that to me or just come here to relax, I'm indifferent to it. Whatever makes you feel better, that's the route we're gonna take. If you want to vent about everything that's going on in your life, that's great. I'm just gonna listen. If you just want to sit here quietly and enjoy the sound of a waterfall in the backyard, believe me, that can be incredibly relaxing. And that is what I'm trying to say. If you struggle to stop to listen to your thoughts, try to direct them somewhere away from your thoughts and create an experience that makes you relaxed, happy, calm, something where you surely start breathing a little slower, your heartbeat will even calm down, your emotions will start settling down, everything will settle down. That is actually where you start to realize how much your thoughts control your body, really, even your adrenaline system. It responds to your thinking even if there is no reason for adrenaline to be in your body. Adrenaline is usually when we have some sort of fight or flight response or a near death thing, like somebody is about to hit you in the side of your car, so you have to either floor the gas or brake much harder than normal. These things cause a spike of adrenaline. But have you ever bothered to notice our body is responding in similar ways, although there is nothing going on? You can sit on your couch in a completely quiet room, and just because your thoughts are ticking, doing their buzz, your body is having hormonal changes going on nonstop. I actually like to believe this is one of the reasons why so many of us feel constantly tired. Our adrenal system is constantly buzzing around, confused about what's going on. Why? Because we create a total chaotic battlefield in our head and we're not even aware of it, not consciously at least. So, yes, maybe try to focus your thoughts somewhere different, a pleasant place. I've said before, I think, try to make that place something, I said ideally something that doesn't exist in the real world. Why? I'm going to give a stupid example. Let's say that you have visited the Eiffel Tower and you took that elevator ride all the way to the top, and it was the most amazing experience. Let's just say it was a quiet, sunny day. There were very little tourists, and you could see all of Paris all around you, and you were so happy. That would be a good example, right? Of like just direct your thoughts there. Try to remember, what did the air smell like? What tint of blue was the sky? What sounds were the city down below making? You see, that would be a way of directing your thoughts. But I'm saying try not to pick a place that exists in the real world. And I'll tell you why. That would become your crutch. You see, when you are trying to stop your thought processes and you're going to automatically just keep going to this location that you are familiar with, what if someday the Eiffel Tower either gets dismantled, decommissioned, whatever, they take the thing apart to scrap the metal because the metal, we're out of metal, whatever. You see what's happening here? If you used the Eiffel Tower as your symbol of utter infinite happiness, and now you receive the news that they tear the thing down, you're going to have a very difficult time recreating that source of happiness because they just tore it down. You have to have quite some good control between the real world and the imaginary world. If you're very good at making a distinction between imaginary and real, well, I mean, we're all pretty good at making a distinction between those two. What I'm saying is, we're very easy to manipulate into a devastated feeling. If the Eiffel Tower were ever to be collapsed or scrapped, whatever happens to it, we're gonna feel some sort of devastation inside. It's the same thing when important people in our life die. They were such an important thing to us, and now it is gone. We have a tendency to collapse, to go inwards, to start suffering, start missing the person. Why? You had life experiences, and because that person is gone, these experiences don't have to end in your head. Remember the good that you have experienced in your life and try not to link it to whether that person is still around or not. I promise you, when you go to heaven or whatever you want to call that place where we go after death, you will meet again. You will talk to these people again. While they're in heaven waiting for you, consider yourself free to continue to enjoy life. That is something that I try very hard to explain to people that are suffering the loss of a parent, a sibling, someone very dear, close, and important to them. Try to imagine that they are waiting for you, they are still observing you from way up there, and all they want to see is you being happy, still living out your life with their absence. Your world shouldn't revolve around other things that can be taken away, whether by coincidence, accidental, or by accident, or by an untimely death. This is why I keep saying self confidence has to come from within you. Is it good to ask for help from your partner or anybody that can help you? Absolutely, do that. But don't make yourself this helpless person that constantly needs support from the same person. This is my problem a little bit with psychiatry. I'm not saying psychiatry is bad, but it's almost like I'm struggling with my thoughts and only this person can help me. That's how that feels to me. Like, yes, sometimes it's good to talk to somebody, even if it's only once or twice. But you see, you are creating your psychiatrist to be your crutch for life. I've never had to go to a psychiatrist, so I can't say for sure, but I'm really hoping psychiatrists are helping to give you back your power. If they are just sitting there listening to you venting and complaining about life, then that's no help at all. You can go vent to your trash can, you can go vent to a tree in your yard, you can go vent to the grass. You know what I mean? Like, and you know what? That sounds funny, but it might actually help you. Just vent to something that doesn't care, you know? Um, I know it sounds a little silly, but honestly, sometimes venting is a huge help. But yes, every time, anyway, I'm going back to the ego a little bit, especially for people that are adults here. Every time something happens around you and you feel an emotional response inside of your body, remind yourself that is your ego responding. For me, when quote unquote bad things happen around me, my emotions do not go down anymore. I've accepted that I am happy with life. I accept that there will come an end to my life someday. I accepted that everything that I have around me is just in existence like I am, and I am happy with everything the way it is. Even the quote unquote bad things. Like right now, my bathtub drain isn't draining at all. As a matter of fact, last night I brushed my teeth, and when I was letting the water run in the sink, the water would come out of the bathtub exit, and it didn't smell pretty at all. Like I had to open windows to get rid of that sewer smell. I'm like, whoa! And my bedroom is right there too. So you see, that's a quote unquote bad thing. But I don't see it like that. This house exists. It needs taken care of, and boing, there is something waiting for me to be looked at. Simple as that. I don't have to worry about that. When it's time to work on it, I will work on it. But I don't have to worry about it now. I don't have to curse that I don't have the money for it. I don't have to curse I don't want to do it, that it smells stinky. It is what it is. Let it be. When you're ready to deal with it, you will get up and do that. Simple as that. So Yes. When you have emotional reactions to things, your ego is has a huge role in that, and we need to investigate how we can self-direct how we feel rather than letting the outside world knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or subconsciously dictate how we should be feeling. I'll tell you another active step that I actually took. And again, this was around age 25. I noticed that every time when I opened Facebook and I saw pictures of happy couples, and then I started scrolling through their Facebook, all it is a bunch of pictures of everybody seeming to be perfect. But then when you meet these people in real life, there seems to be nothing special going on. They're just people like everybody else. But on Facebook, there is this illusion that my life sucks compared to theirs. And then I realized people only post the good things about themselves on Facebook. Or people that are always miserable, they actually do the exact opposite. They create a total victimhood profile on Facebook. Everything sucks to them. I need help. I can't pay for this. I can't do that. Everything sucks. There are profiles like that too. You see, either the profiles are overly great or overly negative. And we start seeing that at night when we're tired, where our emotions are the most unprotected. Let's just use that word, unprotected. We are tired, we are exhausted, we start scrolling to Facebook, and suddenly we realize we're starting to feel depressed. Why? You're just looking at pictures on your screen. What is happening? You're having a reaction based on comparing yourself with what you're seeing on your screen on Facebook. I noticed that when I was 25 and I said, this is weird. I was fine just minutes ago, and as soon as I started scrolling to this, I could feel my inner emotions were starting to get stirred up in a strangely, in quite a personal way. And I was not even chatting with anybody. I was just scrolling, like, oh, we just went to Disneyland. I'm like, oh, wow, that must be nice. Wow, everyone's smiling. Wow, there was sunny too. Like, geez, like I've never experienced that. That's great. Why can't I have stuff like that? You see, this is how we start to think quietly in our head. And because we are tired, we're ready for sleep, our emotions are even more affected by stuff like that. So, around age 25, I made the decision to literally get rid of everything that is a stream of illusionary lives. Am I saying everybody's Facebook is fake? No, I know. You are just posting your good experience. Later on, I actually went back and scrolled to some profiles like that again, and I realized these pictures are usually months apart, sometimes even years. You went on vacation, you post nothing for many months, or just regular simple stuff. I just went shopping. Like, hey, great. We all did. But and then again, a series of pictures like, whoop, you went to the mountain skiing. So every time we see pictures, we only see amazing things. Or again, those negative profiles, we see a whole bunch of things that just suck. But we need to realize that in our room where we had the phone in our hand, nothing was going on. We were there by ourselves. We just wanted 5 seconds of distraction. Oh, let me check on Facebook, see if I missed something. Wham, you are being bombarded with all sorts of stuff. It is for that very same reason that I also stopped watching all the news. My dad was addicted to the news. I forgot what time the news was when I was a kid. I think between 7 and 8 p.m. It was literally, shut up, I'm trying to hear the news. Don't move, don't speak, don't be loud with your toys. I want to hear every word. As a kid, I didn't understand what was going on. And, I'm playing on the floor here with the news playing right above me because the TV was like, 4 feet off the ground, whatever. And I could hear all the words. And even as a kid, every time I was playing by myself, everything was amazing. I was having the most fun with my Legos, my marbles, my dominoes. And when I heard this box, the TV, talking, it seemed to be talking about nothing good. Somebody broke into a house, somewhere a fire broke out, a place got, broken into, like burglarized, whatever. Like it's somebody went to jail, like somebody got shot on the street, like somebody got kidnapped. Like it was just, I could not fathom somebody would want to watch this religiously every day only to hear the bad stuff that's going on in the world. And think about this for a second. This program is called the news. What is new? Why is it never on the news that someone planted vegetables in their garden? Why is it never in the news that somebody is doing something to make the river clean, like picking up the trash? Why is it never in the news that somebody is planting a whole new forest? Why is it never in the news that somebody is starting a recycle business to help clean the planet? Those are new things too. And yet, that whole program is loaded with a whole bunch of things you should be worried about. You see, that program is not intended to make you hopeful, to make you feel better about the world. It is absolutely there to make you depressed, to make you live in fear. And guess what's responding to all of this stimulus? Your ego, your emotions. You see, we live in a world where these people know very well what makes us tick, what makes us depressed, what makes us fear, anxiety, anger. They know that very well. And a lot of TV shows are actually subconsciously playing into that. In a lot of cases, it's done on purpose, but it is done subliminally, so you actually don't know it is going on. Again, until you wake up and realize that your emotions are not really how you want to feel. Okay, that's not true. Most of us know we don't want to feel miserable, but we just feel that way regardless. Everything your six senses pick up is fed into your emotional body, your physical body, your thinking body, and it will respond to it. A lot of teachers meditate for years in a cave. After hearing this whole hour-long talk, can you kind of see why they might want to do that? They want zero impulses. They want to make sure nothing stirs their emotions, nothing stirs their thought. They want as little input from the physical world as possible. That is how they find themselves. That is what they're meditating for. They want to be an absolute rock in the stormiest water. Then they want to know who is them and what is not them. And that is what the whole process is of alleviating all the suffering in the world. Yes, people are starving. I know that. But worry about yourself too. As a matter of fact, they always say before you put the oxygen mask on an airplane on the person next to you, put one on yourself first. Why? It is our human nature to want to help other people first. I know that. That is almost a natural reflex. We're just born with that. But if you help everybody around you, you are going down because you're not wearing a mask. And the more you help other people, the further away you're walking from your own mask. It would have only taken 2 seconds to put your mask on first and then start helping other people. With your mask on, you can help as many people as you want. And that is kind of what I'm saying here. Alleviate your suffering first. I know there will always be suffering in the world. Work on your own. And when you straighten yourself out completely, you are still naturally going to feel inclined to help other people. As a matter of fact, that will become your main purpose. You will not be chasing money so much anymore. You will not be chasing fame, wealth, like everything that we are chasing in our life. It's almost completely absurd. All we really need to do here is work on ourselves, free ourselves from these crazy things, again, that never came with an instruction manual, but we're all suffering it. Yes, some small part of me has actually used a dark cave as my safe space, and my house reflects that a little bit. My house is very devoid of little things that I have attachments to. Like, I don't have little statues, like flower pictures on the wall, painting on the wall. You know what I mean? Like, the things that make a house usually are very absent in my home. And people that walk in here often tell me, like, wow, you have nothing. How do you find this relaxing? How do you find that comfortable? But you see, that's the thing. Nothing is stimulating my inner state in my head. And that is what I'm craving. I don't want external stimuli anymore unless I am seeking them. You see, it's again, I want the world to be there for me. I don't want it to be to me. I will choose when I want to go experience something, but I have freed myself from the world happening to me. It's something I'm trying to teach to other people. It is incredibly difficult. And I must say to all the mystics, the gurus from the East, even some spiritual, religious teachers, some of them do get the message right, and some of them do realize it is all about relieving the suffering of people. But giving $5 to a poor man isn't alleviating his suffering. It'll just help him for 5 minutes, and then he's gonna be begging for money again. How about you just take that poor man home into your house for a couple of months, let him straighten out his life? That might cost you a little more money, and now there's a stranger in your home. Isn't that what faith is all about? Faith in humanity, helping each other. Why are you not bringing this stranger home? Because you're afraid your personal space is going to get invaded. You're afraid something that belongs to you is going to get stolen or broken or whatever. You see, that is always the ego that's getting in your way from doing what the religious texts are essentially dictating you to do: help the poor, help the sick. I have nothing against people that give a couple of bucks to the beggars on the street. I mean, if I were ever completely broke like that, I lost everything, and I had no way of getting myself something to eat, I would probably do the same thing. That is actually something in the Buddhist temples. That is one of the things that they go through in their path to enlightenment. They have to live. I forgot how long it is, like a week or so, and they can only beg on the street. Now, these are monks that are trying to achieve enlightenment, which you could consider as a high status, but here they have to feel the lowest low before they're even allowed to move up in the ladder. And I actually think that is important in a way because I have felt that for myself. I had to learn to let go of everything that I consider is important, of value to me, or I never want to lose that. I never want to give that up. Even I owned 3 cars right now, and one of them is a sports car. It's a Mustang. The other two are Volkswagens, like a 1986 little diesel Golf and a 2016 Jetta, I believe. But that Mustang is considered a muscle car. Like, people could kill themselves with that. I mean, nowadays all cars can go that speed, but you know what I mean. And in the past, I had people just ask me, "Whoa, hey, can I drive that for a second?" And I would just flat out say, "God, no," because I love that car. I love going fast in this thing. And again, when I turned 25, just I was losing all this attachment to everything. And yes, people, even people that I know are a little reckless and they don't really care what they do to the stuff of others. Even when they ask me, can I drive it for like a half an hour? I'll bring it back with a full tank of gas. I'm like, here are the keys, dude. Just don't wreck it because I need to drive that to work. You see, I wasn't attached to the car so much anymore. I now knew, to me, that was a machine where I can have fun in, where I can go from A to B in. That's it. If something ever happens to that car, guess what? There are millions of cars in the world that can do the same thing as that Mustang. It's just my sense of that is mine that prevents me from letting other people enjoy that same car. That is something else you can do with things that you are attached to. Because again, if you're trying to work on your ego, one of the steps you're going to go through is letting go of all attachments. And yes, that includes even your children. You're going to realize they were never your children. They are individual beings that were temporarily under your custody, and now they are self sufficient things that need to learn the world. You will always be there for them, but you can not continuously say, I'm your mother, listen to me. Everything will find its own way in life. We can just be there when it needs us, but we need to learn to let it find its own way in life. Not kick it out the door and like, good luck. No, just in a humane way. Just when it's time to be a mother, be a mother. When it's time to enjoy your investment, essentially, just enjoy it. Stop being the nagging mother, just or the father. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to imply only women do this. It's a natural maternal paternal instinct to always want the best for your children, and you always want to protect them. You always want to be there for them. I totally get that, absolutely. And yet make sure you don't suffocate them by doing so. Again, it's the ego. It's the mine attitude. Like, these are my children, they're my responsibility, their safety is my problem. No, my safety is my problem, not my mom's, not my dad's, not my sister. Everything I do in my life is my doing. It's funny, right? I just said we got to get rid of all the my, and here I'm saying everything is my doing. Yes, there will still be a little bit of I, me, and my. But you see what I mean? Like, I'm not I'm not letting anything dictate anymore who I should follow, who I should listen to, how I should feel, what I should reason with, what I shouldn't reason with. Just let that all go. It's as simple as that. Let everything go. Realize that life will continue whether you worry about it or not. There you go. That should be a quote on the wall. Know that life will continue whether you worry about it or not. I like it. I'm gonna write that down when I get out of this video. So yes, guys, ego. It's time you look into it, especially if you feel you struggle with a lot of unhappiness. It is 1:30 in the morning. I can hear in my voice I'm getting tired, so I think I am going to end my video here. I hope you all enjoyed that. Please do subscribe. I am trying to get over 1,000 subscribers for the time being, and if you have something on your mind that you would love to hear a video about, it would be a huge help for me. It would give me more motivation to speak about something very particular that you may or may not be struggling with. So please subscribe. It will help me. Please comment. It will also help me and all of us. Remember, if you have a problem and you post it online, even if it is in an anonymous way, you are not the only one with a problem. Other people will see your problem and they're like, oh, I have the same problem. I should pay attention here, see what else is going on. What are people saying here? You see, this is again people helping people. And if all of us are too shy, too scared to be judged, another function of the ego, fear of judgment, if all of us live in fear and quietly, we're never going to move forward. We move forward by realizing that we're all humans, we all have flaws, we've all made mistakes. And if you're afraid to speak about them, you know what? Everybody else will stop speaking about their problems too. And what happens? We all live with little problems and we're all depressed people now. Fear of being labeled certain things by just talking about your problems, people, let it go. Let it go. If somebody makes fun of your problem, screw it. These people probably have their own problems and they're just as scared as you to voice their problems. Simple as that. When I was a kid, I hated telling people I'm deaf because it made me feel like I'm expressing I'm handicapped. Please feel bad for me. Nope. I no longer do that. I just simply, in a polite way, when new people come around me and they're going to start talking to me, I tell them, look, I am hard of hearing. Please speak up, because if you don't, I'm going to say what quite often, and it's going to irritate you probably. So you see, I had that fear. I had to learn there are plenty of people out there with bad hearing, with bad vision. They struggle to walk. Why is there something to be ashamed of? Own who you are and speak up about what you struggle with. You see, we can only help each other if somebody makes that step that says, I want to be helped. Here is what I struggle with. Please talk to me. All right, guys. My name is Aiden. It was my honor to speak to you all today. Please comment, please subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good night.